Hey, what's going on, everybody? It is Aaron Trevino here, and we have a terrific guest. We have none other than Nico from Small X Communities. How you doing today, Nico?
Hey, Aaron, man, I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm just fine. I can't complain. It's great to have you on the show, and happy to see you.
Thanks, man. Likewise. Yeah, I'm happy to be here, man. We connected over social media and I saw what you guys are doing on YouTube. I love what you guys got going on, and I'm excited to talk today.
All right, I appreciate the kind words. Thank you so much. So for those of us who don't know you, Nico, could you introduce yourself?
All right, cool, man. I am a Spanish teacher of 17 years. This is my 17th year as a Spanish teacher, and moving into now transitioning into the multifamily world where my goal is within 5 years from now to be completely done with teaching and fully and solely focused on multifamily. So I started, investing back in 2012. I bought us a lot down in Nicaragua, just a plot of land in like a really cool beach town because I surf and the original goal was to just take my family down there occasionally, but it turned out that we ended up building a house on there, and now I have it up as an Airbnb, yet to be rented for the first time. It was just actually recently finished. It took that long with politics and everything to get everything done, but so now we're done with it, ready to set it up as an Airbnb. And from there in 2019, I started looking into buying duplexes, triplexes here in New York where I live, and I couldn't find anything. The ultimate objective was to eventually just have something that's paying me money, because I continually was picking up more and more work, more jobs, and I was wearing myself thin, man. So I knew and I realized in the back of my mind that I can only work so much and I can only work for so long. So I started looking more at real estate as a means for passive income. And I started looking first at duplexes here in New York where I live, and then triplexes. And I couldn't find anything that was really worthwhile. I came to the conclusion that, I can buy one, let's say, and then wait another 10 years to buy my next one. And it wasn't going to necessarily give me enough cash flow to become financially free. Now, after paying it off, paying down the mortgage for a certain period of time, yes, it might provide me a nice cushion for retirement, but that wasn't in the end what I thought was going to be, the best route for me to get financial freedom. So I started looking, long-winded answer here, man. You can stop me whenever you want. So I started looking at multifamily as a means for financial freedom. And I didn't think it was possible, until I found and got connected with the current mentorship program that I'm involved with, the Jake and Gino team. And this was in late 2019. As soon as I spoke with one of the representatives, Josh Rusin, I was on a plane 3 days later. Actually, I wasn't even on a plane. I flew standby to go to one of their boot camps, and I ended up spending 24 hours in the airport just to get down to the boot camp in Atlanta. But I made it there, and from that moment on, my life was completely changed.
How about that? And one thing is interesting. It kind of seems like the premise of the spark of this was kind of that realization you had between time and money. Was there any particular moment that it really dawned on you?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was in 2018, actually, when, I got hit with a giant tax increase, just property tax on my house. We went from paying, which was already expensive, about 8,000 a month, a year rather, 8,000 a year for our property, to about 12,500 a year. And I wasn't prepared for that. So that extra increase in taxes for the year, the tax burden just really put a strain on my finances, and I ended up picking up more work. And I had already been working various jobs, besides my teaching job as my standard W-2. I was working as a coach a few times a year. I was also working as a mentor and coach to teachers. I was also teaching teacher courses. I started a program in the morning time to help students. So I was already basically capped out. And at this point, I had read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I knew what I was supposed to do, start or buy businesses and have real estate at the same time. So I went into first what I thought I could handle, which was starting another business. Now, I had zero time to do this, but I did it. So I started a wood shop, and I ran it out of my garage for a few years, where I was making things that I thought were simple enough, small enough, compact enough to ship around the country, and to try to get some extra money to pay for our mortgage and our tax burden. and it worked. It worked for a few years, but I found myself not sleeping. This is for I'm still doing it, but I'm not doing it as a business anymore. So from 2018 to now, I kind of backed off it a little bit. But at first, it was really just getting, putting in a ton of hours at night and on weekends when I was already burnt out, and just to make ends meet and just to survive. And I realized that this is just, it's not the way to do it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I would imagine, I mean, you're taking, something from nothing into a finished product, right? So you're having to get the wood, you're having to craft it, you're having your inventory, taking stock of it, and then, kind of dealing with the logistical things. So what was kind of the issue with the woodworking?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, like I was doing everything, and it's running a business. It's not like, oh, I'm just going to go make some wood today or make some cutting boards, and that's really what I was making. Now, what I ended up doing was I had to create a presence for myself on social media. I had to actually start a website. I had to build the website myself. I had to talk to people to make the sales. I had to make the items. I had to buy the wood. I had to talk to vendors and get the best prices, and I had to ship it out. And it was just at the end of the day, it was just so much work that really wasn't. I factored in how many hours I would put on one cutting board and how much return I was getting. I was making like $5 an hour, which I could have just done better as a waiter. And but still, it came down to, do I really now just want to go wait tables again? Because I've done that in the past too. What can I do, you know, to now begin accumulating passive income? And that was really the aha moment when I really, really needed to just sit back and and kind of absorb that and digest all that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting you kind of finding that relationship between time and money and, not just working hard, but also, kind of seeing what the end goal is. And it seems like for you, you're transitioning into that being the passive income.
Right. What I attempted to do at one point with the business was hire somebody to have them do the work for me, some of the manual labor for me, as far as, you know, r- I guess taking down the rough lumber and milling the lumber for me, doing sanding work, things that was kind of rudimentary, but just took a long time. And still, it was just not a feasible, because the problem is, Aaron, is like you go abroad, to another country, and people, they'll work for $2 an hour, they'll work for $1 an hour, and I can't do that, and I can't pay somebody that little. You know what I mean? So it wasn't worth it in the end. And it was something that I enjoyed doing personally, and it was part of also my branding, was that I made everything by hand. So now if I was giving it up to somebody else, it would change my brand image. And it was also just something that wasn't as enjoyable to me, to run it as a business, rather than, I came to the realization that I just liked doing woodwork. So now I do it as a hobby, and I give them away as gifts, which is a lot more fulfilling for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess like anything that there's kind of, especially with kind of, being in the business world, there's more than meets the eye, right? It's easy to just say, oh, we'll go to school, or, oh, work hard, or, oh, just start a business. But there's a lot more upkeep that you had to do.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So now you kind of transition into just making them as gifts, and then you doing real estate, I guess, on the side as well, or what's kind of a day to day look like for you?
Yeah, good question. So now what I do with the, like, cutting boards and just things out of wood objects or whatever I make, I still do some furniture and stuff, but it's typically friends and family, and it's not necessarily for sale anymore. So what I'll do is I'll take and I'll give them as gifts for, to people. For example, I gave gifts to to many, a few brokers down in Tampa, where I'm targeting, that's my target market. I gave them to a few property managers. I gave them to a few people who helped me out, to write my ebook. And these I use them now as more of a relationship building item, and it's really gone a long way, because I'm putting their own, something that's, tailored for them. Like, I'll make something that they like, right, and I'll also include maybe their last name or something special to them, so every time they use that item, they're thinking of me. And in the real estate world, it's important to be top of mind, in the broker's eye or in the property manager's eye, because things come across their plate, and if they can think of you first, it can be really beneficial in the end.
Yeah, it's interesting how you're kind of taking two things that are on its face seemingly unrelated, right? So the woodworking and the real estate, and you kind of mesh those together.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And to get back to your original question of what's my day to day, well, so I wake up super early every day. It's just part of my daily routine, and I mean, I find that to be very, very beneficial. I don't drink, I don't do drugs, I don't do any of that stuff. I don't even watch TV. I haven't had a TV in years, and what I do is, I wake up early and I plan my day out and I focus on what a few things that need to get done in my real estate world for the day because, I'm it is still a side hustle. My main job is teaching and I have to go into work and teach every day, despite COVID, and despite everything that's going on, I'm still at work. So, but I do get breaks throughout the day and I'm focused 100% on real estate throughout the day when I have those breaks. And then after school, I get home 3:30. Again, I'm focused on real estate. So there is a lot of time left in my day, because I to focus on real estate because I cut out a lot of the extra activities that I was doing. And COVID kind of helped that, because I was coaching a few sports seasons a year and I wouldn't get home till 6 or 8 o'clock at night. Now I can be home at 3:30, focus exclusively on the real estate side of things and just grind, man. It's literally every single day I'm up at 4:30, 5 o'clock, working on real estate stuff, either planning out podcasts, planning out interviews, planning out social media, underwriting something, submitting offers, negotiating deals throughout the day, and taking calls, whatever, networking. So much involved with it, and it's a 7 day a week kind of thing, and for me it's not necessarily work. And I know that, yes, it may appear that I'm adding another job onto my plate, which it is, but this is different than other jobs because this has a way out, right? This is going to provide me passive income once, once I build up my portfolio to a certain level, that I will then be able to retire from my W-2, which is ultimately what I want to do.
Absolutely, it's great that you have that vision, and you even said it. Um, you're not just blindly walking in one direction. You can see the way out, and the way out is passive income.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and there there's different ways to get it, right? I mean, it doesn't have to necessarily come from multifamily real estate. There's single family, there's other types of asset classes in real estate that can certainly provide it. Stocks, there's different types and forms of investing that you can receive somewhat passive income. I just happen to fall into the multifamily space, when I met up with the Jake and Gino team, and just, I feel like this is a really good fit for me and it's something that I truly enjoy. So on top of that previous statement that I made, that I did pick up another job, I also really enjoy it. It's something that I look forward to doing every day. It's not like I wake up and I dread it. Oh no, I have to teach or I have to, do real estate. I like both of them. So right now I'm happy and making things happen, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just interested, aside from you being great at Spanish, you understanding the real estate market. What is it about teaching in real estate that you particularly like?
So originally I got into teaching because my ultimate goal was to help as many people as possible, right? I grew up with, half of my family was living in, my mom's side of the family was living in Section 8 housing her whole life. And, and just seeing my siblings, younger siblings, grow up that way, I felt the need to help them. And, the we can say that we want to help people and make the world a better place, but to actually put yourself on the front line, was a big step for me. I never thought I would be a teacher, but I realized that I have the power to impact a lot of people if I am visibly in front of these kids every day, and I can have, these certain conversations with them and kind of guide them in life. And it's been very rewarding. I mean, 17 years now, and I've had so many kids come back to me, just let me know that how I've impacted them, or how I am their favorite teacher, or whatever they took away from it. It's been very rewarding. And now to take a look at what I'm doing with multifamily, the same thing. I see it as a means of providing, a safe community, a safe environment for people to live in. And on top of that, you want to make sure that you're providing a affordable housing for people. You can't, we all say we want to raise rents. And yes, raising rents is one of the ways that we can increase our NOI, at the end of the day. But on top of that, we have to make sure that we maintain a comfortable and happy, safe living environment for our tenant base. So it's not always about raising rents. Sometimes I like to look at, things like how can we reduce expenses? How can we change management tactics and things like that as well? So I'm still feeling the I guess the ability to provide assistance to people through buying multifamily apartment buildings. Because there could be landlords out there that just have bad intentions, right? That are just not even considering their tenant base. They're just looking to raise rents, kick out people, and get rid of people that necessarily might be able to stay there if you were to provide them with certain government assistance or some other programs that might help them. And they're really looking to turn things upside down and just kind of get a paycheck at the end of the day. But I have a heart. I've always had a heart, and it comes down to like the what people say a lot. If would you rather have somebody nice be a millionaire or somebody who is just a bad person be a millionaire? It just comes down to that. So, I look to I'm always, my heart is always, and I wear my heart on my sleeve. I'm always looking to help people, and that's the way I carry myself in multifamily as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting, kind of the parallels even between the Spanish teaching and the real estate as well. You're creating that environment for learning for students. Of course, you want to increase the test scores, but you also want what's best for the students. And then with real estate, you're wanting to, obviously make your money as well, but also providing a good service to your tenants.
Yeah, it's true. And when it comes to teaching, you're right, man. It's not always about drilling them with vocabulary, let's say. Everybody learns differently, and some kids need different things in life, and you don't always want to force something down somebody's throat. You might want to guide them in the right way. Like, I've gifted the Rich Dad Poor Dad to the right kids, and they've come back to tell me, and other books as well, but they've come back to tell me how much it's impacted them, because you can see kids going on certain routes, taking certain routes in life, but you see potential in them. They just might be headed the wrong way, so they need some guidance. I like to take that approach with my students. And then on the multifamily side, I'm always looking to either help out the tenants, but not just the tenants, also, when in partnerships. So I currently, for example, I'm working with, I have one deal done, one big deal done, and I'm currently working with other people who don't have a deal done yet, so that I can uplift them and get them into the game, because I know that they are also really good people and they're going to do right by their tenants as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It kind of sounds like it's about fostering that community and kind of, not only filling your cup, but, someone else's too.
Yeah, man. Like it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know you mentioned, earlier about, was it Jake and Gino you said, right?
Yep.
Could you kind of elaborate a bit more maybe about how you got connected with them, and kind of what you're doing?
Yeah, so I found the Jake and Gino community on Bigger Pockets. I was like a lot of people. I was searching Bigger Pockets when I was really focused solely on looking for duplexes and things like that. I figured that that was the best network for me to get involved with, the best community for me to get involved with, to go the duplex route or even single family route. I looked into that as well. But I met a few people on the Bigger Pockets forum that had discussed the Jake and Gino community, and I didn't right away. This was like, I guess, in the summer of 2019, and I didn't follow up with that right away. But I did think that maybe I could do something with multifamily. So I ended up interviewing with some bigger name people. One was Greg Dickerson, looking for a mentor and a coach, and one was Joe Fairless. And then I said, you know what, let me look into Jake and Gino, because there were a lot of people talking about them in a very positive way. So on Bigger Pockets. So once I got connected with them, it was, I realized what they had was a little bit more for a better price. You know what I mean? Like with Joe Fairless, let's say, wonderful guy. He makes things happen, obviously. It was a heftier price tag. And on top of that, it was just going to be a one-on-one coaching with him. And I wasn't sure if that was really the right fit for me, even if I did have the money, which I didn't. But the Jake and Gino team provide, what I saw is three things. Number one, they give you coaching and mentoring, right? So they have a coaching program where they can guide you for the next 2 years, and you can be in contact with more than one coach for multiple years as opposed to 1 year. They also provide you with an academy. So they have like a it's like a course, on to learn how to buy mom and pop multifamily real estate, and it can take you a year to go through the coursework if you want, or you can finish it as quickly as you want. I did it in like a couple of months. And the third thing that they offer, is their network. So they get you involved in a community, and you have access to all these people that are trying to do the same thing that you're doing, so they're all involved in the mentorship program. And the network has been so beneficial because you find out who is working where, and you find out who you mesh well with and who you feel like would be a good fit for you to partner up with. And you're constantly talking to these people, and then you end up eventually building a relationship with them. You submit offers with them. You take your offers that you submit to your coaches. You see if there's any flaws in your underwriting. There's just it's just a very well-rounded mentorship and academy, and an academic coursework program. I think it's just, for me, it's been outstanding.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. Just even the way that you're describing it, because it's so crucial not only to be around that good network of people, but also having that guiding hand that can show you how to underwrite and show you how to kind of dot the i's, cross the t's.
Yeah, there's so many questions that I had even when I was looking at single family, and I could never get those questions completely answered, or it would take so long to get those questions answered. So the benefit of having a mentor or a coach, somebody that's experienced and well versed in what you're trying to do, is just you can literally pick up the phone and call them when you have a question, which is just, it saves so much time and it saves so much energy, especially for somebody like me who's got a W-2, and I can't really focus all my time on building and creating my own education. It had to kind of be given to me. And then, yes, I have to put in the work to actually learn and do it. But I mean, it's been so phenomenal. And I, there's different ways to set up your calls and schedule and talk to your coaches with them. I made sure I set it up once a week. I have a call with my coach, and then I text him or email him any other time. And there are other coaches too that I talk to. So, for example, if you wanted to talk to Gino, one of the top, he's the founder of the company, you can just schedule a call with him too, which I find amazing also.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like it's more personable that way, right?
Yeah. I've even had conversations with Gino's wife, who's a life coach, because I'm going through some things in my life and I needed somebody to reach out to, and she was there for me too. So it's very like a family oriented environment. And, that was also one of the main reasons why I chose them. They're a very nurturing environment, and they really want to see uh, their mentees succeed, other than the fact that, yes, they have a company that they're trying to earn some income from, but you can see they get joy when somebody in the community closes on a property.
Yeah, it's absolutely huge. Just having that network, being around good people, and having people that are all on the same page.
Hmm.
Sure. So also one thing you touched on as well was underwriting a deal. For those of us who don't know, could you describe what underwriting means and why it's important?
Yeah, so sometimes we think of underwriting as like, I guess, insurance or like a mortgage, say when you're going to refinance your house or something. But when we underwrite, I'm really just meaning analyzing a deal. So let's say you're going to be looking at a 20-unit multifamily deal. You're going to want to get three things, right? You want to get the financials, which is the T12, right? The T12, or the trailing 12 months of financials from the building, how it's operating, or sometimes it's called the P&L, like the profit and loss sheet. You're going to want to get the rent roll, meaning you want to see who is paying rent, who they have renting there, and how much they're paying. And you're also going to want to get the OM, or it's like a marketing package, or the offering memorandum, where you're going to be, I guess, getting like it's kind of like it's like a brochure, a sales brochure from the actual, the real estate broker, right? So you get those three things, and then you can begin what we call underwriting a deal, or just analyzing the deal. And there's different tools out there, or calculators, right? So there's different spreadsheets or calculators that you can use to help you underwrite these deals. And none of them are necessarily better than the other. It just falls on which one you become more comfortable with, and that will help you figure out how much you should be paying for the property, and what you should ultimately, what kind of returns you're going to get, and if you're going to syndicate it, meaning I don't know if syndication is something we need to talk about, but if you're going to syndicate it, how you're going to pay your investors, how much they're going to get paid, et cetera. So it's really a way of analyzing a property.
Yeah, absolutely, Nico. And since you mentioned the word syndication, could you kind of describe what syndication is and what it means in this context?
Yeah, so syndication is typically, I guess we could break it down by saying it's just a pooling of resources, or in this case, a pooling of money or funds to buy an asset that maybe I couldn't buy on my own. So, I would get a bunch of my friends to, let's say, give me $100,000, and then we can buy a bigger building than I could buy on my own. That's I guess, the basic way to look at it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it sounds like that's probably a pretty feasible thing for people to do. If you don't have $1 million in the bank, going into a syndication deal with other people.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And but it's difficult, right, Aaron? Because you can go and, let's say, I've never done a deal before, or I have a single family house, and now I want to go syndicate a 20, 30, 40, or 50 unit, building. You might run into problems, right? So there's so many nuances. Like, I can't just go tell my aunt, hey, I'm going to go buy a 50 unit building. Do you want to give me $100,000? You and 20 other people, it, it takes so much education on your end as an operator to actually get people to see what you're doing as something that's valid. A lot of people see it as like a Ponzi scheme. Just give me $100,000, and I'll give you these X returns for the next 5 years or so, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm just curious as well, who are you, like, for example, let's say we each have 100 grand and, there's X amount of people and we're looking to buy that asset, right? Who are we specifically giving that 100 grand to?
Yeah. So, okay. So we can break it up as, limited partners and general partners. So the general partners are the management team. They're the ones that are going to run the property, right? So they're going to they're going to have to sign on the loan. They're going to have to show the net worth and liquidity to actually close on the deal and get the loan. They're the general partners. They found the deal. They're going to run the deal and manage the property through a third party management typically. But they asset manage, meaning that they manage the managers, right? And then there are the limited partners, and the limited partners are the ones who receive we'll call it completely passive income, although it's not, and we can get to that in a minute. But the passive investors or limited partners are the ones who can contribute, a good chunk of the down payment for the mortgage, and they're going to be receiving a certain percentage return for either monthly in cash flow or quarterly in cash flow. And then they're going to get any disbursements through a refinance if there is a refinance on the project, and they're going to get any disbursements at the closing or the ending or the sale of the property, the disposition, which can be anywhere from 3, 5, 7, or even 10 years.
Yeah, absolutely. And you made an interesting comment there about passive income, but it's not exactly passive income. Could you kind of elaborate a bit more on that?
Yeah, so as a limited partner or a passive investor, those names are basically interchangeable. You're going to be, let's say you put $100,000 into a deal. Now, once you put the money into the deal, you're basically passive, meaning you're going to be getting a cash flow, either monthly or quarterly, depending on how the operator decides or the general partnership decides to pay you. And that's all discussed and very well known prior to closing on the deal. But your job as a passive or a limited partner is to understand first, before you get into the deal, you have to vet the deal, and you have to vet the sponsor, and you have to vet the market. So you have to look at three different things. And if you're not very well sophisticated, or if you don't understand very well the whole process, you know it it might not be a good fit for you. So you do have to get educated first. And that's why I say it's not completely passive, because you do have to vet three things. Like I said, the sponsorship team, or it could be one person, the general partners who are actually going to be signing on the loan and managing the property. You have to vet them. You have to vet the market and the property. And you have to also vet what was I saying? So the three things are the sponsorship team, the market, and the property. Yes.
Yeah, that sounds crucial because there's a lot of different moving pieces, and it's a lot to take on.
Right. And then now let's say the the deal closes, right? Now it's operating and you're doing great and you're receiving monthly income. You also want to just pay attention to what's going on, you know. You don't want to be 100% hands off. I mean, in my mind, some people do. Some people are completely hands off at that point. But you want to still follow along with what's happening. So for example, I put out a monthly newsletter where I write and I also create a video for our investors where I'm explaining what's going on at the properties because things that are happening, especially now during the pandemic, things that are happening are going to impact the returns that our investors are going to get. Some people are okay with that. Some people completely trust the management team and leave it up to them to make the best decisions for the investors, but other people don't, and those people that don't are not as passive, right? Because they're constantly following what's going on. They're going to be reaching out to me and asking me questions like, how are we going to handle X, Y, and Z problem, right? And that makes it less passive. But like I said, you have the option to kind of be passive if you're just not, I guess, if you don't pay that much attention once the deal is closed and operating, right?
Sure, absolutely. It's kind of interesting, kind of seeing the distinction between those, right?
Yeah. And from so like I could update and what I do, every single month I update my investors, and maybe we're going to be refinancing soon, so it's something that they should know about because they're going to be getting a chunk of money back, once we refinance. And if they are not really following up or keeping up on the newsletters or the videos that I put out, or if they don't reach out to me, because I'm constantly providing them with information, but if they don't read it or reach out to me, then they're just not going to know certain things, and it's okay too. They're still going to get the same return, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm just curious as well. It kind of sounds like there's been a lot of steps to your, I guess, real estate education process. You got connected with some good people. You with Jake and Gino, learning a bit about multifamily. This can seem like a big daunting task to someone who's just starting out. What would you advise them?
Oh man, well, you want to you want to make sure that you this is something that you want to do and you're going to commit to it, right? If you don't make that commitment, I've seen people even in the Jake and Gino community not make it, right? And I've been in as long as they have. I've only been in for a year, right? And I've seen people fall off. And it doesn't have anything to do with the Jake and Gino program. It has to do with them. If they're not fully committed to it, they're not going to put in the work necessary for years to come, right? It's not just you get into one deal and then that's it, and you're financially free. It doesn't work like that. If they're not committed, excuse me, to putting in the work that's required for years to come, then they're gonna just fall off. And I've seen a few of my friends that I started with have kind of disappeared. They fell through the cracks. So number one, I would say gauge your commitment. Are you fully committed to this, and why? If you don't have a strong enough why, if you're just like, hey, yeah, I just want to be rich, it's not necessarily strong enough to keep you going for the years to continue, right? You have to have a bigger purpose of why you want to get into the multifamily space. And I really think that has to do with any kind of goal that you set. You want to have a big reason or big purpose for doing it, or else you're going to burn out or just kind of lose steam, right? So I tell people to make sure that this is something that they want to do. And when they are convinced that it's something that they want to do, I have them, reach out to me, and we talk first about getting together their kind of like a plan of how they're going to approach their own business, how they want to start. And typically people want to start in the multifamily space as a joint venture. They want to partner with some other people to buy a smaller property and then eventually scale up, which I think is a great idea, although I didn't do it. But that's typically how they get started. And then I work with them on building up like an image, right? So a brand image, because in the future, regardless of how much money you have, you're probably, if you're going to be in this for a long time, you're probably going to want to syndicate a deal, which means that from this point on, you're going to have to start, I guess, presenting yourself as a professional in the multifamily space so that people will take you seriously come time. It could be a year, 2, 3 years down the road when you ask those people to invest in a deal with you, right? So it's important to start building up a brand name and a brand image that you think will help you a few years down the road, if that's, if you're not planning on doing that right away. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. It's just, it can be a tall task for someone who is just kind of dipping their toe in, taking, a bit of interest in the industry. But, real estate is so broad and so vast, it can be tough for someone to know, where to start.
There's a lot of, I feel like there's a lot of pride in the sense that, oh, maybe people are getting into it for the wrong reason. Oh, I own a building. I don't own a single family or duplex or a quad. Even I own an apartment building with some friends, right? So there's a lot of pride in that. But what happens sometimes, and what I've seen, is that when people JV, joint venture, or just we'll call it a basic partnership, right? Where a few of your friends, they pool their money together. This is not a syndication. They just go and they're all going to be active investors and actively participating in managing the deal. And they buy, let's say, a 20 unit, right? Some people stop there, right? And they're like, well, maybe this isn't for me. I still have my W-2. There's a lot of work involved with being active. And a lot of people will stop after that first deal. So, and then kind of just regress and keep that deal for however long they keep it. And that's it. And that's their multifamily experience. But when you're, in my shoes, where I realize that my W-2 is not going to give me the retirement that I need, I'm building this as a full on business that I'm planning on doing until retirement and beyond. I'm not going to stop working on this. So I have to create something substantive. I have to create, an actual business and a business model that can sustain me for the rest of my life and my daughter's life and for her kids. I really want to create something that's going to be, lasting.
Yeah, no, you brought up an interesting point there as well. Kind of this dichotomy between, just trying something, or just giving it a go, versus really, like you're saying, trying to make something that'll last and that is substantial, right? So why do you think some people give up after that first go?
Man, it's a lot of work being an active investor. Well, there's a few reasons, right? Financial reasons, obviously. And then, so let's say you have a couple $100,000. Not that I have a couple 100,000, but let's say you have a couple $100,000 and you get into a deal as an active investor with that $200,000 and you joint venture. Now you're back to square one, where you have to save up again or wait till you get enough money to do another deal, right? So, do they have the steam left in them to wait and do that again? Do they have the financial resources available to do another deal? Then, do they have the time? Was there something wrong with the partnership that fell through? Partnerships are tricky. It's like getting into a marriage. You're going to be with this person for a long, or people for a long time. Maybe you didn't realize jumping into this deal with them how they are as a business person. Maybe they don't put forth as much effort as you do into managing the property. There are so many emotions involved with it also that can make it very challenging for somebody to want to continue. It can be discouraging at times. It can be, look what happened this past year in 2020. With with COVID. I mean, there was so much uncertainty, and I'm sure that a lot of partnerships dissolved because of it. I've actually seen a lot of partnerships dissolve because of it. People weren't able to maintain their properties, and there was just difference. It causes fighting, right? The tension between partners can cause fighting, and it can just be a very daunting task to continue something like that, right? Now, let's say on the flip side, let's say somebody has all the money in the world and they do a joint venture and then they buy another one and another one, but there's still work involved. So let alone the emotional challenges between partnerships, but there's a lot of work involved with managing a property if you're going to manage it properly. If you're not on weekly calls with the management team, right? Even if you're not self-managing, most of us in the multifamily space have a third-party management team. But if you're not on weekly calls with them and constantly up to date with what they're doing and making sure they're hitting their KPIs, right, their key performance indicators, if you're not constantly on top of them, they can take advantage of you, and then you're going to be losing money. And at the end of the day, you're really not making much money at all on these things. So is it worth it, right? It's not for some. This multifamily game isn't really just a buy and like, okay, now everything's perfect and I don't have to really worry about it. It's not passive. It's really hands-on, especially for us active investors. So for those people out there who I've seen, buy one deal and kind of give up, they tend to realize that active investing isn't necessarily for them, and then they tend to go into the passive route, and which I think is phenomenal also, because as we discussed earlier, there are a lot of benefits and hands-off kind of less control of being a passive investor or a limited partner on somebody else's deal that you trust, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It kind of seems like anything. There's a few different ways to skin a cat. It's just kind of about, not only cash, but risk tolerance and really just what you're comfortable with and what suits you, right?
Yeah, great point, man. And yeah, to that point again with the risk tolerance, I mean, some people are just afraid to do anything right now, even still, even though, we're a year into this whole pandemic thing, and there's still fear, so it's just not for everybody. But that, to that point, there's always going to be some sort of trouble or trial or some tribulation that we need to deal with, right? And it just kind of a testament to the personality of somebody. If they're not willing to take on this pandemic head on, what's going to happen in the future if there's something else that arises where they're really going to be challenged and their business is going to be challenged?
Yeah, absolutely. It's almost like this is kind of it's kind of a trial run, really, because kind of how you approach this situation is really how you'll approach anything.
Yeah. And, it is a business, right? So you are running a business as a multifamily operator, and how you handle business in general, pandemic or no pandemic, is really going to shine through during times of crisis. So people are still operating, still making money, still doing well throughout the pandemic, and I think that it's just a testament to good business practices.
Yeah, absolutely. So for you, I guess more of on a real estate level, multifamily level, what are you looking for right now?
Well, it's a great question. And I'm really looking to continue to, I need to do a few more deals. So, for those of you out there listening, I don't know if you understand this, but there are certain things you need to get a deal like a multifamily deal done, right? So, you have to have the net worth and liquidity, which I don't have, right? You have to have the experience to get a loan, or else nobody's going to give you a loan if you haven't managed or at least owned a property of a similar size that you're trying to buy for, let's say, a year. It's going to be very difficult to get a loan on, right? So you need somebody with that experience. And then you're going to need some other things, but I have the other things, right? The experience I don't have because I've only been in this game for a year, and the net worth and liquidity I don't have. Now on the deal finding, deal sourcing, yes, I have that. On the ability to run and manage the managers, yes, I have that. The marketing, yes, I have that. Deal sourcing, I have all that, right? But so what I'm looking to do is do a couple of more deals. So for this first year, I did one deal. We got a 194 unit building uh, in on the books. I got that done. We syndicated it. It was my first deal, and we did it as a syndication. We actually just almost landed a deal. It was an 89 unit deal in Pittsburgh. We just missed that. At the 11th hour, we got a call from the seller saying that they were going to actually sell to somebody else when we had originally, planned to cut out the other seller. But anyway, the other buyer, but it just didn't work out in our favor. So what I'm looking to do is get a couple of more deals under my belt with teams, right? So this first deal was with a team of 8 general partners. My next deal was going to be a deal with 8 other 8 total general partners. And I'm going to do that a couple of times until I have the other piece of this, the puzzle to do these deals, which is the experience. So that I can be the one who the lender looks at as, oh, this person has the experience. They have the knowledge of managing a 100 unit building, let's say, for a year, and they are ready to go. And we can, they can sign on the loan for us as the experience, right? And throughout this whole process, I'm constantly looking for people who are going to be investors. So I'm always networking with friends, family, neighbors. I have my meetup group, which I'm always talking to potential investors about. But now I'm also looking for high net worth people who can fill that gap for me, because I'm going to need high net worth and liquidity to sign on the deal, right? So now this gives somebody with high net worth the opportunity to get involved in a big project without having the experience, because you can't have like, let's say there was somebody who came in with $100 million net worth, right? Actually not far off. I've seen it before, but let's say somebody comes in like that, $100 million. They can't necessarily get funding for a deal. They can't necessarily get a loan for the deal because they don't have the experience. I can be the experience factor for them. So my goal for this next year is to try to get 1 or 2 more deals done in the same fashion I did the first one, with a general partnership team, and syndicate them. get the experience under my belt so that I can provide that experience for people in the future, if that makes sense.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. That's a great goal. You're kind of able to mesh, the liquidity aspect also with that experience aspect too.
Yeah.
Sure, absolutely. Well, is there anything you haven't said, Nika, that you really just like to hammer home?
I don't know, man. I mean, I think that what's important, I would love everybody to be involved in real estate in some fashion. I think it's such a wonderful means of creating and generating wealth for, ourselves and our families. So I really implore people to just get educated and get knowledgeable about what real estate can do for you and how it's the best fit for you and your journey. But I think that everybody should be involved some way, in one way or another, in real estate. Like, I was just at my aunt's house prior to this, and she's looking to buy a condo, right? And it makes sense for her. I'm not going to say, well, you should invest with me. I never do that. I think that what makes sense for each person and that individual is really what makes sense for them, and I'm going to help them regardless. So she's looking at a condo, let's say in Florida, and it's going to be her retirement. She's going to go down and live. She's going to rent it until she retires, and then she's going to go live there. And I think that's perfect. So I think that there's real estate avenues for every single person out there. You just got to get yourself educated, knowledgeable, talk to people like Aaron, like me, and we'll just continue conversations and help each other build and grow, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's interesting what your aunt is doing there is, she's kind of melding the real estate also with her own personal lifestyle too.
Yeah, it's important, because for some people, I mean, look, we can own our own house. Yes, you don't have to, but and you could buy condos, you can buy single family houses, but you got to think of your strategy and what you like. So she likes to travel down to Florida. That works out perfectly. She likes to have a place where maybe her nieces and nephews can go and share, times together and make good memories together. That's perfect. So for every person, it's going to be a little different. And then, I have one of my friends who is he's an accredited investor. He's high net worth, and he's got everything he needs, but now he's looking to just invest, right? So he takes $100,000, he gives it to me. He takes $100,000, gives it to other operators, and he really likes that aspect where he could be hands off, and he doesn't work during the day. He spends his time accumulating, his passive income and spending that time with his family. So, every single person is different. Every investor is different, but in some way I would love for, the world to just be involved in real estate.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a great goal. That's a great vision to have because it can be a pretty neat vehicle to do what your aunt's do and make it part of her lifestyle.
Yeah, man.
Absolutely, Nico. Well, where can we find you on social media?
Yeah, man. So underscore Nico Nico underscore Salgado is my Instagram handle. But I think the best way, I'm on Instagram every day, I post every day, but I think the best way to find me would be on my website, because it's got all the handles there. You can reach out to me through email. You can get my phone number. You could sign up for my newsletter, or you can just check out, my podcast is on there too. So the best way to find me is smallacecommunities.com. And that small axe comes from Bob Marley's, Small Axe, where, he talks about the oppression and how people with just a small axe can make a significant difference in this world. And I like to say that too. I'm not coming from big money. Like I'm saying, I don't have high net worth or liquidity, but I was able to purchase a 194 unit apartment building. So there is truth to the fact that you can build an empire with just a small axe. And I spend my time sharpening my little axe and trying to build my own empire. So for those of you who are looking to do the same, reach out to me by going to www.smallacecommunities.com.
Well said, Nico. Yeah, you're a true testament to that small axe.
Thanks, Aaron.
Yeah, I like that. Well, Nico, thank you so much for coming on the show. I've learned a heck of a lot, not only about you, and a lot about multifamily. So you've been a great guest, and really appreciate you coming on.
Oh, Aaron, thank you so much, man.
All right, we'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.